Stronger.
Imagine a world without choices.
Stronger.
Imagine you can't make your own decision. That wouldn't be a world for me. That wouldn't be a world for you. UIC.
Tell them we're gonna be stronger. Together we can make it right. Our purpose is a better Jamaica for you and I. Gonna be stronger together. Time we all just unify. Our purpose is a better Jamaica for you and I. It is a natural right for every human being to be free. Free, so free. So the government is there to protect you and me. UIC objective is to liberate the citizens from colonial bondage, them regulation, them taxation. Rob Jamaica, we independent. Be stronger together we can make it right. Our purpose is a better Jamaica for you and I. We're gonna be stronger together. Come, we all just unify. Our purpose is a better Jamaica for you and I. Non-partisan, constitutional.
Good night, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, at whatever time it is, where you are all around the world. Welcome to another episode of UIC Liberty TV. I am Chase Neal, General Secretary of the UIC and Shadow Minister of Education and Human Development. I hope everyone is hearing me loud and clear. Welcome, JMH, Liddy. Class is in session, indeed. Sylvester Lawrence, Bruce Davis. All right, welcome everyone. So, our topic, dead babies, uncollected garbage, and COVID-19. Is there a link? So, we are going to be exploring a very interesting topic tonight. And I hope everybody is ready. All right, so since we don't have everyone here yet, we'll just go into it, and everybody else will join us as the show proceeds. Now, I want to start off by sharing a letter, an open letter that was written on the topic of non-payment of teachers and other workers, which will kind of lead us into the topic tonight. So I'm going to share my screen while I read through that letter with you. All right, hold on there. All right. I hope everyone is seeing. All right, so this open letter, non-payment of salaries of teachers and other workers. The United Independence Congress, UIC, Shadow Ministry of Education and Human Development, is concerned about the recent news that teachers had not been paid salaries since September. This is a much too frequent occurrence that has been taking place for decades now. One would think that the recent mass migration of over 400 teachers and the earlier migration of over 160 since the start of the year would have caused the Ministry of Education and Youth to improve its relations with teachers and the administration of their affairs. Apparently, this is not the case. In these modern times, what accounts for the myriad cases of misplacement of teachers' documents? This is a worrying trend that the MOE must seek to correct immediately, and the Minister, Honorable Favor Williams, needs to account for. Those who are entrusted with the education of our nation's children must be paid adequately and must be paid on time. Another worrying trend, which is not reported as much, is the non-payment of school watchmen, some for as long as 8 months. What is really going on within the Ministry of Education and Youth and its regional offices? Is the security of educational institutions not a priority for the government? The Shadow Ministry of Education and Human Development would like to know if there has been a reroute of taxpayers' contributions from education to some other venture, as Prime Minister Andrew Holness had explained, had occurred in the case where capital that was to be used to procure garbage trucks was directed to the COVID-19 vaccinations. As we can see from this ill-advised move, garbage is piling up all over the island. With garbage pileups being related to gastroenteritis breakouts in some studies, especially during wet seasons, it is possible that the recent gastroenteritis attacks are related to the mismanagement of the COVID-19 pandemic and the resultant lack of garbage trucks and non-collection of waste. We suggest that the Ministry of Health and Wellness conduct a study to verify this for the Jamaican people. But still, we must ask, is the government going to wait until issues in the Ministry of Education and Youth similarly compound and create greater problems? UIC's Shadow Ministry of Education and Human Development seeks clarity also from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security on the underpayment and mistreatment of security guards over the years. With the Ministry of Labor and Social Security being involved in industrial disputes between security guards and their employers over the years, with the government contracting companies that abuse officers, and there being labor laws and practices that describe continually contracted persons as employees, why had this matter not been corrected long before the September 23 Supreme Court ruling? When will the security guards start receiving overtime pay and other benefits due to employees as they should have been receiving from their date of employment? The government needs to do better by the hardworking citizens of Jamaica. Now, I want to focus our attention on the third paragraph here that says, Prime Minister Andrew Holness had explained that capital that was to be used to procure garbage trucks was directed to the COVID-19 vaccinations. And as we can see from this, garbage is piling up all over the island. Now, it has been stated in various studies that garbage pileups are related to gastroenteritis breakouts, especially during the wet seasons. We will be exploring that in our live broadcast today as we ponder the question of the dead babies, garbage pileups, and the COVID-19 mismanagement. Is there a link? Are they related? Bless up Wade Noble, welcome here. Bruce Davis, he says two-party, PNP and JNP, same sad song, no more party. That is what we are about. It's time to have real government. It's time to have a Congress. Vote UIC. I endorse this. All right, Alan Scott, enough respect to you too. All right, so we will move right on into it. Now, what we want to look at now, in looking at, is there a connection between the dead babies, the uncollected garbage, and the COVID-19? And if there's a link between them, we want to look at what is the cause of the reported death of the babies, which is gastroenteritis. Now, we have heard on the news that a number of children have been reported ill, some dead from gastroenteritis, contracted from a rotavirus. Now, we want to know exactly what that is, and so we will listen to pediatrician Dr. Jedine Knight-Laws as she explains what is gastroenteritis and how it is spread. All right, let me see if I can get this video up for you. right. So that's cool.
No way. One children Bible. We've been tonight. Laws to talk to the virus, we call it.
Virus.
In Jamaica. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Morning, Doc.
Good morning.
So you're saying percent of children will in their lifetime get gastro?
Yes, children who are virus, which is the most common cause of gastroenteritis on our side of the world. More than 80% of kids in their lifetime episodes of infection.
And how does one contract the rotavirus? It's viral, clearly, so it's just out there.
And easily spread. So because it's viral, it's so when you have contact with someone who would have been sick, if they indirectly touch a surface, or if you have food, whether or not they would have had it before, or if it's food that may have been left sitting out for longer times than we would have wanted it to, yes, that's how you catch it.
Go ahead, finish.
I was going to say that then after exposure, you start to have symptoms about 1 to 2 days thereafter.
That's food that causes it all the time.
No, so gastroenteritis is caused by many different causes. So we're talking about viral because that's what's happening now. And that's the vast majority of cases, but bacteria as well, which is how food poisoning can come about, and parasites as well as just contaminated drink. Yes.
You kind of already answered the question because most of them will be fine. We had a case, I read a case from the Western End that we lost someone.
Yes,
it seems like they're saying it was because of gastro, but I didn't think it would be something fatal.
So the trick with any illness that causes you to have vomiting and diarrhea in kids is dehydration, and that's why we're trying to have this talk where we can advise parents and guardians that it's not the virus, because your body will get rid of it eventually. But when you don't keep up with those losses and your child continues to vomit and we're not replacing the fluid that they've, you can die, because dehydration is very serious in kids.
Gastro in itself won't kill you.
The virus, the illness in and of itself won't kill, but the complications, which is dehydration, can be severe. Can kill.
Okay, so what are we looking for in our children? Gastro affects adults too.
Yeah, man, everybody can get gastro. Why
children are particularly vulnerable?
They're particularly vulnerable because they're not so keen on keeping away from their peers who are sick and hand washing,
right?
As well as the fact that because of their small body surface area, a little bit of diarrhea can have a more serious impact, right?
So what are we looking for among our kids so we can know something is going on?
All right, so usually for gastroenteritis that's viral, the first sign is usually so if you notice that your child is having a lot of vomiting, maybe about 2 episodes within an hour, that's a cause of concern. They're starting to have a fever. And then usually about 24 to 48 hours thereafter, they will start to have some watery, loose stool. So that's what we call diarrhea, or sometimes just really an increase in the how you usually pass stool. And there can be abdominal pain as well, starting off early.
They say from November. I don't agree with that, but if those months.
I do agree with that. So a lot of our international, what we call the winter sickness, actually, the winter will thrive a little more. But then also for Jamaica, it's the kids are starting to interact with each other a little bit more over the summer. The start of the school year.
But In our case, it wouldn't be the winter vaccine.
No, not at all.
Not like fires. In our case, it's just the fact that you said they are mixing up.
Right, right. And it is a little older, eh? Yeah, as it comes to November, December. So
Okay.
yes.
All right, so we're looking for being loose stool, more frequent episodes. Persistent dizziness.
Yes, so when you start to get dizzy, sometimes when you're feeling a little sick, you can say that you're feeling a little dizzy, but we're concerned that the dizziness may be a dehydration or a drop in your blood pressure, which is why, when you have that, especially if it's persistent, you want to take your child in to see their doctor or their pediatrician.
And also, I'm reading here, only passing small amounts of urine or no urine at all. That's high, nothing to come out.
Exactly. So if you're passing less urine, no urine, especially over a course of 8 hours, if your mouth is dry, you can look at your child is crying and no tears coming from then, or you look and sometimes the eyes are sunken, and very important, kids are resilient. So if you notice that they're just not playing and they're not moving, you're talking to them, they're not responding to you, then that's definitely a sign of dehydration and you should be concerned. Take the child into the doctor.
Yeah. You said earlier that after a couple of days it should pass. What happens if it doesn't? A couple of days
A couple of days is 2 days? Or?
So the symptoms usually start to get a little better by 2-3 days, but it can take up to 8 days for it to completely stop. So sometimes have a little persisting even after then. Doesn't you want to take your child to the doctor? So if after 48 hours you don't see any improvement, then certainly you have to come into the doctor. And then there are other things too that make you want to call us right away. So if there is blood in the stool, if there's blood in the vomit, or if the vomit looks green in it at all, or what you'll hear us say coffee grounds, or sometimes brown like coffee. If the fever is super, super high, so we're talking about 104, 110, and all the signs of dehydration that you mentioned before, take your child right in.
Apart from drinking water and stuff like that, and I'm not suggesting that anyone shouldn't go to the doctor, but they're at home for some reason and you can't make it, what you can do to kind of ease what is happening.
So you made a great point, because majority of children with gastroenteritis don't come to the hospital because majority of them are mild, and our parents and guardians have been doing a great job of managing it at home. So there are commercially prepared oral rehydration salts available at most island wide, and the pharmacist and the packet will tell you how to mix. There are made in topsicles that the kids want a little bit more because it's eager time and sip or suck on it. Some water is good, as well as coconut oil. We ask kindly give any sports or any undiluted fruit drinks, yes, because they have a lot of sugar. And sugar will pull water into the GI tract and cause more diarrhea.
I was told years ago by a doctor, and obviously you don't want it to be lasting forever.
Build your brand online with a logo. Just go to Wix Logo Maker.
And obviously you don't want it to be lasting forever. But I was told years ago by one of my children wasn't so well, and he said diarrhea, vomiting is not necessarily a bad thing because you have what is not good inside you. But you don't want it, if you have vomit forever, the problem. So is that so?
I would say I agree with that, and that's why sometimes when the parents come into the office and they ask, what kind of medication are you gonna give, and we say to them, we're not gonna give anything, we're gonna allow it to pass. They kind of raise the eyebrow at you, because we want that your body is to get rid of this toxin that you would have contracted, from the various ways that I mentioned before. So, and because it's something that's so common, many kids will have it. It's not necessarily bad to get rid of it. It just shows that your immune system is working. But when it goes on for a long time, one, you have to consider if this is really just straightforward GE, and maybe you need to do some more investigations. But then also, two, the concern about the prolonged losses and dehydration.
Let's talk about the children with underlying conditions. That's important. Okay.
So in our condition, sickle cell diseases is quite common, right? So all my parents who have children with sickle cell disease, they're not the ones that you want to kind of wait the 48 hours for. If you have any sort sort of illness that can suppress immune system, or if you're on medication like chemotherapy, radiotherapy, so on, then the advice is to be a little bit more aggressive. So even if you think it's mild, it's better to take the child in to the doctor, to the pediatrician, so we can make a better assessment.
Yep. When we started, Sim said last week we had 107. Reading this, and it came out 4 years ago, the Ministry of Health is in Jamaica over last year, an average of 107 infections recorded weekly. Is that well, they say an average. I was going to say if that's his average, but is 107 weekly plenty that?
It is a lot, but then just bear in mind that when they come to the hospital, majority of them get their ORS assessed and they do go home.
What's the ORS?
So the oral rehydration salt, sorry. So that's the salt that you give, the solution you give to rehydrate. So yes, this is a lot, and we've been seeing a little bit more numbers this year. So that's the cause for concern. But I
know why this year we're seeing more than.
I suspect that it has a lot to do with last year. The kids were at home a little more, and then now they're out and more interactive with each other.
Okay, so we're telling parents, what do we tell kids? Wash your hands more regularly, kiddies?
We are definitely saying to wash your hands, wash your hands. We are doing that for 20 seconds. We're using soap, we're using water, and in cases where water is not readily available, we're using our hand sanitizer. Owners of daycare facilities or places where children gather, disinfect all the common surfaces, the doorknobs, and also try not to leave your food out for a long period of time. Stay home if you're unwell.
I was going to ask you that amazingly, but what is a long period?
It depends on the food. So people will say don't leave rice out for 6 hours. If it's egg, then you want to eat it. In the fridge? Yeah, man, not in the fridge, but like out at room temperature. So each food has their own time that they should stay at room temperature. And there's also a vaccine that is available against the virus.
Is there?
There is.
I did not know that.
It always was? We always had that vaccine?
Not always. It's more within the last, I would say, 5 years. Maybe don't quote, but it's a recent vaccine.
Thanks for coming. Consultant pediatrician, Dr. J. Knight.
Right. Coming up, we see how one organization is working to provide financial assistance to Jamaica's bright.
All right, so there we saw a pediatrician outlining the causes of gastroenteritis and what to do in case we are afflicted by gastroenteritis. Now, I hope we got a wealth of information there, but we want to now zero in on the question that Neville Bell asked. He asked if the doctor knew why now. Why is it that there is this big outbreak in this recent time? Why is this outbreak the biggest one in recent times? Dr. Nightlaws, she didn't seem too sure, but she offered a guess that it was caused by the fact that the children were home for the past 2 years and were now interacting. So that is what the Dr. Nightlaws put forward as a possible reason as to why there is such a big outbreak of gastroenteritis, which has been unprecedented, at least in the recent years. However, there's another perspective to consider, and we'll be looking at one more video before we move on to the connection of all of this to the uncollected garbage. Now, there is, I'm not even sure how to pronounce this doctor's name correctly, Olanigi Ayodeji. Yes, so he'll be speaking now on all you need to know about gastroenteritis. All right, I tried to bring up this one for you.
Gastroenteritis, just like the way it sounds. It's coined from the Latin word gastro, then enteritis. That means stomach, intestine. Then itis means inflammation of the gastro. So it means an infection of that alimentary canal, the canal where the food goes through and comes out. So any infection at any point in time, the other point, we call it gastroenteritis. Yes, numerous things, but the major pathology there, the major cause is an infection. Now, it could be secretory, it could be inflammatory, it could be that of drug-induced, or the foodborne, from the foodborne disease. Now, some people would take unclean food in, and from that point in time, there's an infection. The body will want to reject it. So how it operates? The system has a mechanism to take in whatever is eaten. But when it takes in something that's foreign, let's say an organism, maybe a bacteria, maybe a virus, maybe a fungal, what it does is to want to eliminate it. So once it absorbs and it adheres to it, it wants to wash it off. So at that point in time, it gets to lose fluid. So that's why people go to the toilet and say, wow, I've gone to the toilet like 3, 4, 5 times. The symptoms mostly are through diarrhea and vomiting or nausea. Nausea is a feeling of vomiting, and vomiting is actually puking it out. Then diarrhea, frequency of going to the toilet to eat off. So the body tends to push a lot of fluid into the system, which wants to release all these organisms, these contaminants from the body. So diarrhea, the definition is not actually coined in any way, but most people would define it as once the stool takes the form of any container. If it's either a square container, if it's circular, that means it's going to be watery, and the frequency more than up to 5 times a day.
Where were you on March 9th, 2022, when President Biden signed the death warrant on American freedom?
It's a highly infectious disease, actually. Very, very infectious. It can range from being mild, where it's self-limiting, it's self-contained. The person just goes to the toilet once or twice or 3 times and say, oh, it's over. Oh, I popped one medication and everything's over. And it could be life-threatening. And the mode of transmission is mostly fecal-oral. Somebody defecates in probably nearby drinking system, maybe in a stream, or goes to toilet, does not clean properly, now goes to the kitchen to prepare food, or the vegetables brought from the market are not properly cooked. You know, nowadays people are eating fruit salads and all the rest. You know, broken skin from fruits, the leafy vegetables, the carrots, and all that things are not properly prepared. So once there's contact with an infected feces, that is stool, and the person takes it in, or through poor water, maybe drink it from the tap or contaminated cup. And this issue of roadside people that are cooking nowadays, you find them use one basin of water to wash like 300 plates, and they give it to serve the next meal. The food may be still hot, but the plate is dirty, it's contaminated. So when they eat it, they get infected. Yes, preventions are in 3 phases. Usually, there are usually 4 phases: primordial, primary, secondary, and tertiary. Vaccination is key.
What is a vaccine?
There are vaccines for numerous pneumococcal vaccines, measles vaccines, there are rotavirus vaccines. Most times it is seasonal. During the raining season, poor sanitation. You find people dumping refuse in a nearby drainage system, expecting it to flow out of the community. Just 100 naira or 200 naira or 500 naira every week to take away the waste, properly dispose it, has been difficult. So what do you do that? Oh, the drainage is flowing. This flood. They put in there for it to flow. And all this will form a stasis. It's going to stop somewhere. And there's going to be a backflow. Now, most of these things will wash up to the stream. People go there to take drinking water, maybe to wash their clothes or to wash their plates. In communities where it's so bad, they might boil the water not up to what it should be. They may not filtrate so well. Or those that imitate and they do pure water, fake pure waters, fake bottled waters, and they sell it to the community back. So hygiene is key. So if that is not corrected, then you're going to be having infections over and over again. Now, the main form of contact, fecal oral. You walk into a restaurant, you want to eat, someone, probably the low-level staff there that stays in somewhere that's highly infectious, picks it up from there, comes to work, has been using the toilet over like 2-3 times, and doesn't clean up properly, and serves you. There could be a measure there. At that point in time, something could happen with the plates or with the meal. It is not properly handled, and give you something to eat. And that person contacts it from there. And you say, but I've been eating in this restaurant for a while. For like 2-3 years, I've been going there and I've not had issues. And the next thing is, I just went there yesterday. After 4 hours, I've been to the toilet like 7 times. And that's been my only meal for the day. So you see how easy it is to get contaminated, to come in contact with this. The non-walk virus, the Salmonella typhi, the Giardia lambda, so many other diseases like that. In this period, we advise people to take probably carbonated drinks when they're going outside, especially the travelers. Don't say you see someone boiling egg on the street and, give me egg, I'm traveling, don't worry, I want something. Nah, eat light, okay? Avoid vegetables, salads, and stuff like that. Excuse me. Now, if you're going to eat, ensure it's steaming hot, above 60 degrees. If it's going to be cold, less than 4 degrees centigrade. At that period, those temperatures, most bacteria don't thrive. Most, I don't say all, most don't thrive at that stage. So you could have a measure to escape food poisoning. So people say food poisoning, yeah? Those are food-borne diseases that could occur. The refuse in the state, in every developing nation, you will have that there because there's people coming in there, large migrants, and they use a lot of refuse. So refuse to reuse your refuse may cause gastroenteritis. If you refuse to reuse your refuse, that's recycling.
Oh, okay.
So people, if you look at it now, people are going to recycling. The waste in somewhere in Ojota there can be converted to power. In Singapore, in Coventry, in so many other places like that, they convert their waste to wealth. So why are we wasting it? The last time they had an explosion there at Ojota where they put refuse was a methane gas, which can be used and converted to energy. It doesn't cost anything. So I think the population, the youth out there, if you're looking for work now, start recycling cans. People are buying them. They're exporting aluminum in granules. They're buying plastics. It's cheaper to recycle nowadays. But whatever you're picking is free. So instead of blocking the drainages, pick them up. So the drainages can flow easily. So there can be reduction in the rate of unemployment, infection of gastroenteritis, and also the pollution will be reduced.
All right. So we see there, Dr. I don't want to spoil his name, but the doctor there has explained that cleanliness is key in preventing gastroenteritis. But the doctor moved further from just personal cleanliness, as in washing hands and washing foods and so forth. And he went as far as to speak about keeping our environment clean, because pollution contributes to gastroenteritis. Now, what he says is that the fecal oral transmission is the chief means of transmission. Flies transmit the virus from feces to our food. or sometimes we may use the toilet and don't wash our hands properly. But what I want to focus on is what Dr. Ayodeji said about the effect of poor sanitation and waste disposal, especially in the rainy seasons, if you were paying attention there. Not only does the pileup of uncollected garbage attract the flies, which spread the disease, but also rain fall on the garbage and washes the refuse and the fecal matter, perhaps from the disposable diapers. We know that our garbage heaps and dumps are full of those. And these may be washed into the streams, into rivers, other water sources, even onto surfaces like road surfaces, or perhaps a stall that's left there overnight, and then they put up the stall. The water would have washed and touched that, then they put food on it, and then we go and buy it. And we touch these things without thinking and without washing our hands before handling food. And no, this causes me to wonder now why the Ministry of Health and Wellness has not been promoting sanitation, proper washing of hands, and proper disposal of garbage, as they were promoting all of this, well, minus the disposal of garbage during the pandemic. Now, when the pandemic was states of emergencies were active, we would get notices to wash our hands and sanitize and so forth. But with this being an outbreak of gastroenteritis, and the Ministry of Health and Wellness knowing that proper washing and sanitation is key, plus proper disposal and collection of garbage, why has there not been any public service announcement? No, have we not all learned and become accustomed by now, especially in light of the last 2 years, to being very deliberate with the washing of our hands and overall cleanliness? And why is this not being promoted, especially now that we know that there is an outbreak of gastroenteritis? Now, the question that I want to ask now, leading into how gastroenteritis and the deaths that resulted from it is connected now to improper disposal and collection of garbage. Now, could it be that this lack of cleanliness and this lack of proper garbage disposal and collection be a reason why we have such a huge outbreak of gastroenteritis at this time specifically, especially during the rainy season? Now, there is actually evidence that supports this view that garbage and improper collection does have strong effect on the health of the environment. And I'm going to be sharing an article now that speaks to that. Give me a moment here. Overflowing garbage bin, impact on health and the environment and how to prevent it. So we'll go through this. All right, so we're going to skip the introduction a while and talk and just look directly at the 5 ways in which garbage affects our environment. The first way here is bacteria, insects, and vermin thrive from garbage. It says overflowing waste bins are an ideal breeding ground for bacteria, insects, and vermin. The flies that visit the garbage are also the same flies that roam around your lunch buffet and drop their offsprings on your plate. By doing so, they increase the risk of you contracting with salmonella, which causes typhoid fever, food poisoning, enteric fever, gastroenteritis, and other major illnesses. Besides flies, other animals that thrive from the garbage in and around the containers include rats. Well, foxes here, but we do have stray dogs. Number 2, overflowing waste causes air pollution and respiratory diseases. One of the outcomes of overflowing garbage is air pollution, which causes various respiratory diseases and other adverse health effects as contaminants are absorbed from lungs into other parts of the body. The toxic substances in air contaminated by waste include carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, and methane. In everyday life, we identify the polluted air, especially through bad odors, which are usually caused by decomposing and liquid waste items. Thirdly, garbage contaminates surface waters, which affects all ecosystems. Garbage and liquid waste that end up in water bodies negatively change the chemical composition of the water. Technically, this type of pollution is called water pollution. It affects all ecosystems existing in the water, including fish and other animals that drink the polluted water. Hazardous household waste items such as batteries, computer equipment, and leftover paints can be particularly dangerous for surface waters. Fourthly, I went too fast there. Direct handling of overflowing waste exposes for health risks. For waste collection staff, the garbage collectors, the risks of picking up and handling overflowing garbage include infections, chronic diseases, and accidents. Direct contact with waste can result in skin and blood infections through infected wounds, various illnesses resulting from the bites of animals feeding on the waste, and intestinal infections transmitted by flies feeding on the waste. Picking up overflowing garbage is also risky due to sharp objects, needles, and potentially hazardous waste. Number five. Now, number five, this fifth one was apparent in our going around the country and taking pictures of waste. Inefficient waste control is bad for municipal well-being. Besides causing all sorts of health and environmental issues, overflowing garbage is a public nuisance and eyesore. Everyone wants to live and visit places that are fresh, clean, and healthy. A smelly city with poor sanitation and trash all over the place does not attract people or tourists, let alone investments. Cities keep losing money, and they also miss out on the revenue and job opportunities coming from proper waste control and recycling. So we see 5 ways in which waste is bad for the environment. But I'd like to focus on the first one, where it cites gastroenteritis from flies following the garbage as one of the consequences of improper garbage disposal and storage. Now, could it be that the rising mounds of garbage, the uncollected waste, is responsible for this outbreak of gastroenteritis, the biggest that we have ever seen in recent times? Now, this article just showed us that it is indeed possible. Now, we have seen where there are studies too, actual studies that come out that say that in cities where there is not effective waste disposal and collection, there has been a rise in hospitalizations and diarrhea outbreaks. So I'm going to be looking at that before we move on to our other point. The effect of waste disposal. No, this study was conducted in Lebanon. And these studies can be kind of long and boring, so I won't go through all of it. Just the background. It's on a scientific journal, by the way, so you know that a lot of study was put into this and official research. Now, the background: a waste disposal crisis occurred in Lebanon, leading to the accumulation of garbage in the streets of Beirut. It is not clear whether such a limited crisis of improper waste disposal will lead to more diarrhea illnesses. Now, the purposes of the study is to compare the rates of admissions due to diarrhea and characterize the illness among adults and children before, during, and after the garbage crisis. Now, we're going to go to the discussion area. Skip all the figures and so forth. Hold on, I think it's the background. Oh no. No, if it is, or the discussion is there. No, if it is that garbage collection is known to be directly related to outbreaks in gastric diseases, then we must wonder why it is that the Ministry of Health and Wellness and the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, which under which the National Solid Waste Collection Agency is situated, we need to really ask a question why these ministries have not been on top of this garbage situation. Anyway, the discussion, it says there is an epidemiological link between hygiene and health in general and proper waste disposal and diarrhea specifically. And some persons are quoted there. However, it is not well studied whether the temporary disruption of proper waste disposal in an upper middle income country could lead to an increase in diarrhea. This retrospective inpatient chart review at the American University of Beirut aimed to measure the hospital diarrhea admission rates before, during, and after a waste disposal crisis that happened in 2015, in which garbage and trash accumulated in the capital city of Beirut. The study shows that the admissions for diarrhea have increased throughout the crisis periods as compared to the control periods. However, the severity of the diarrhea illness and the management of the medical cases was similar. Physicians may have ordered more tests, however, they did not abuse the use of antibiotics. So we see there was more frequency in diarrhea cases, although not necessarily more severity. During the months of the major crisis, a rotavirus diarrheal outbreak occurred among all age groups. Rotavirus is expected to be present among younger children. However, the increase in the rotavirus infection among adolescents and adults is worth exploring. Is the increase in the incidence of rotavirus infection among older adults as a result of the garbage crisis? What would be the mechanism? And what would be the mechanism of such a transmission? One well-known mean of fecal oral transmission of infectious organisms causing diarrhea includes flies, which can pick up fecal matter via direct contact and then transfer it mechanically to food, water, or fomites. Flies also can consume fecal matter and either regurgitate it or excrete it into food, water, or fomites. Rotavirus is the most important pathogen causing diarrhea globally. All right, so we will stop here. So among the findings, we see that, yes, the increase of garbage, at least in Lebanon, and the lack of collection of garbage is directly related to an increase in cases of diarrhea in the hospitals in Lebanon. Now, can we dare say it is the same for Jamaica? Now, in light of this information, we have to ask, what is it that caused the mass accumulation of garbage all over the island? Why is our garbage not collected? Why all of a sudden is it that now everywhere we look, there is garbage? In contrast to times before, what is the difference? Now, our Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, told us that because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the monies that were supposed to be used to get 100 garbage trucks was used instead in the COVID-19 management crisis, whatever. Let me share that with you, and we're going to see why this is fraudulent and why the Prime Minister, the government, needs to account to us for the our monies were spent. This is a Gleaner report published on July 18. 50 new garbage trucks coming to Jamaica soon, says the Prime Minister. So our garbage was not collected because the money was repurposed, and now we have an outbreak of gastroenteritis on our hands. Now, the news report says, with timely garbage collection a major concern in sections of Jamaica, Prime Minister Andrew Holness has announced that the government is preparing to secure 50 new garbage trucks to complement the current fleet manned by the National Solid Waste Management Authority. He made the announcement during a Jamaica Labour Party Central Executive Council meeting at the Montego Bay Convention Centre in Rose Hall, St. James, on Sunday, where he also gave an update on plans to turn waste into a renewable energy source. Now, Prime Minister Holness says, we have bought and brought in new trucks, but it was just not enough. And last year, we should have brought in another set, 100 trucks, but the resources that were dedicated to that had to be diverted into the pandemic management. To take the funds and put it into the management of COVID-19 meant that the 100 trucks we had on order, we just couldn't do it. That is, complete the purchase, Holness told the meeting. All right. So we don't even have to go any further there. We see why we don't have enough trucks. We don't have enough trucks because our Prime Minister decided that it was best to mismanage the COVID-19 pandemic, and I'm going to explain why I say it's a mismanagement. No, Lily says garbage is not collecting because of bad governance, and that is true. That is true. Bad governance, and we're going to be looking at that and presenting our case as to why this was not managed properly. The COVID-19 was not managed properly. In fact, it was a total sham. But anyways, did you see what I just saw when we went through the newspaper article? The Prime Minister is telling us that our babies have been potentially exposed to a health risk. Some of them having lost their lives because funding that was meant to ensure that we had enough garbage trucks was instead funneled into a fraudulent COVID-19 pandemic management. Now, we must bear in mind, we must remember that the government of Jamaica tried to force all its citizens to take an untested, unproven gene therapy injection, colluding with the private sector organization of Jamaica, the PSOJ, to demand that people take the jab or lose their jobs. I wonder if we remember, because that certain companies, like a popular telecommunications company and a popular bank, several hotel chains, started to dismiss people from their jobs if they were not taking the job. And this was encouraged directly by the private sector organization of Jamaica, which also encouraged the government of Jamaica to come in with the mandates. In fact, if you remember, the Prime Minister approached the Supreme Court for permission to make a mandate, and it was granted. The Supreme Court said it would not be unconstitutional so long as the government embarked on an education campaign. Do you remember? And because of that, there was this all-island education campaign about the COVID-19 vaccines, so-called vaccines. In fact, it was at one of these that the Prime Minister said that God made the vaccine, if you recall. Now, the people of Jamaica's rights to their own bodies was not important to the government. Not only did the government totally disregard our right to choose what goes in our bodies and to take away our freedom of movement, we locked down for days. Our freedom of expression, you would recall some people talking out against the mandates and getting locked up for it, and our freedom of association, but they also blocked our access to viable medical treatment of COVID-19. There were proven treatments that were blocked from coming in Jamaica. So they tried to force their own thing on us. So Prime Minister Holness is telling us that in his brutality to the Jamaican people, to try to force us to accept a medical procedure that was foisted on them by foreign interests. In doing that, he mismanaged and misdirected the funds that were supposed to keep Jamaica clean, so that we did not get the garbage trucks, so that now garbage is piling up, so that now flies can follow it to spread gastroenteritis to the most susceptible population, the babies. This is what Prime Minister Andrew Holness is telling us. Now, the death of the babies, what is it in light of this information that Prime Minister Holness will tell the parents? Not only did he block us from accessing medical treatment that had no symptoms and had even 100% recovery rate for COVID-19, so he robbed us of our right to proper treatment, causing deaths among those who were even vaccinated. How many vaccinated persons do you know died? No, my father was vaccinated and he died. He was robbed of his right to medical treatment last year. So not only did Prime Minister Holness disregard our rights and rob us from getting treatment, but he used the funds that were designated for garbage disposal to do so, potentially causing another health crisis. Now, what does he have to say to the parents of the children? No, wasn't this a health crisis that could have been prevented from reaching this magnitude? No, we make a bold statement because we have not qualified our statement yet. That's saying that when we said that Prime Minister Holness robbed us of our proper treatment for COVID-19. So what I'm going to do is qualify the statement. For those of us who might not have been aware that there are actually treatments with 100% recovery rates. No, I want us to know, listen to this doctor from Florida as he explains how he cured 3,000 COVID-19 patients with ivermectin.
At Hugh Cotton Insurance, we know protecting the biggest investments of your life takes trust. And that doesn't happen overnight or on an app or website. It happens when your calls are answered and your agent saves you money. Hugh Cotton Insurance, your shield of protection since 1948.
I said to her, if I'm going to lose my dad, I need to have the peace that I did everything I could do.
Mindy Lefevers Hodge is sharing her family's ordeal. Her father, David, was suffering from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. He had just finished chemo, and Mindy says he was one of the first patients to receive the COVID vaccine in January of 2021. In March of 2021, David contracted COVID. While he was in the hospital, Mindy was advocating for ivermectin. She says a doctor prescribed ivermectin when she had COVID.
But literally after the first dose, I felt so much better.
So what is ivermectin?
It's actually considered a wonder drug. The person who made it actually got a Nobel Peace Prize for it in 2015.
According to Chest Journal, a peer-reviewed medical journal, ivermectin was developed in the late 1970s to treat parasitic infections. Originally, it was used in veterinary medicine, but was found to safely treat parasitic illnesses in humans, like scabies, worms, and river blindness. Chest Journal also reported 3.7 billion doses of ivermectin have been distributed globally over the past 30 years for humans. The World Health Organization names ivermectin on its essential medicines list. So for Mindy, her frustration only grew that her father was being denied ivermectin in a local hospital. Not until day 6, when he was being transferred to ICU, did a doctor agree to try ivermectin.
He should not have lived, and he was going downhill every single day until the ivermectin started and we started seeing improvement.
Dr. John Littell says Mindy's family story is far too familiar.
Hello, how are you? I know from my own experience that tens of thousands of Americans lost their lives because the medical profession refused to accept that there was effective early treatment.
A bold statement from a local doctor who says he's treated some 3,000 patients with ivermectin and has seen its positive results. Dr. Littell has been a family physician since 1990, practicing in Kissimmee and Ocala. Littell says that he's got a target on his back for being so outspoken about ivermectin, but feels it's the right thing to do for his patients.
I've already been suspended from one hospital and fined $500. The bottom line is hospitals are not allowing us to provide optimal care.
One of Dr. Littell's patients, Stacy Morales, a recently retired nurse, got COVID last summer. She decided against getting the vaccine for personal reasons. When her oxygen was low, she called Dr. Littell and was prescribed ivermectin instead of going to the hospital where she worked at the time.
Within 2 hours, I was starting to breathe better.
According to the FDA's website, it states, the FDA has not authorized or approved ivermectin for the treatment or prevention of COVID-19 in people or animals. Ivermectin has not been shown to be safe or effective for these indications. Emergency medicine physician Dr. Rajiv Bal explains the studies on ivermectin treating COVID-19 are just not sufficient enough.
There's a number of physicians out there who will prescribe ivermectin. However, the vast majority are not prescribing it at this time because of the strong anecdotal studies that show that this medication hasn't been efficacious. It may show in the future that this medication is efficacious. However, at this time, we just don't have that evidence.
Congressman Neil Dunn represents Florida's 2nd Congressional District and was the former chief of staff at Gulf Coast Hospital. He wrote an op-ed in the Sun Sentinel in October of 2021, noting several studies out of India, Mexico, and Argentina that found ivermectin was working when treating COVID-19.
There's in excess of 30 studies in the literature, 20 of them randomized controlled studies that prospective studies that show benefit with ivermectin. So to say that there's no evidence for this drug at this point is to willfully just be ignorant of the true literature.
Dunn says ivermectin has become political, and the patients are the ones suffering. He encourages healthcare professionals like Dr. Littell to share their experience with ivermectin.
We have a secret society of doctors anymore who really get it. It's time that they were able to come out of the closet and be real docs and be real advocates for their patients.
Meredith McDonough, WESHU News.
All right, so the doctor made a statement there that ivermectin has become political. I don't know why a drug would become political. Obviously, something was up during the so-called pandemic. Do we realize though that the country was opened up suddenly this year and there's no big spread of COVID-19, yet they say COVID-19 is still around? But that aside, this doctor has cured over 3,000 patients using ivermectin. And you see toward the end there, another doctor hopped on and said, he wished other doctors would come and give their own testimony to ivermectin and its use in curing COVID-19. No, so you have heard it from the expert, but just in case you might think that these doctors were making it up, we're just going to take a little breeze now through a scientific journal article in the American Journal of Therapeutics. Now, bear in mind that this is a peer-reviewed article, which means that it's published in a reputable journal where there are other physicians, other researchers, and they review it. So the fact that it's peer-reviewed means it's legit. Now, see that in the American Journal of Therapeutics, so we know that is legitimate. Now we're going to be looking at what they say about ivermectin and its treatment, its treatment in for COVID-19. All right, the introduction. We're just going through the first three paragraphs here, just to underscore what the two doctors said in that video. To date, very few treatments have been demonstrated to reduce the burden of morbidity and mortality from COVID-19. Although corticosteroids have been proven to reduce mortality, that's death, in severe disease, there has been little convincing evidence on interventions that may prevent disease, reduce hospitalizations, and reduce the numbers of people progressing to critical disease and death. Ivermectin is a well-known medicine that is approved as an antiparasitic by the World Health Organization and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. It is widely used in low and middle-income countries to treat worm infections. Also used for the treatment of scabies and lice, it is one of the World Health Organization's essential medicines. With total doses of ivermectin distributed apparently equaling one-third of the present world population. Ivermectin at the usual doses is considered extremely safe for use in humans. In addition to its antiparasitic activity, it has been noted to have antiviral and anti-inflammatory properties, leading to an increasing list of therapeutic indications. Now, if you know anything about the COVID-19, you would know it's a virus and it causes inflammation in the respiratory tract. Now, ivermectin is both antiviral and anti-inflammatory, in addition to being antiparasitic. Anyway, since the start of the SARS-CoV-2 pandemic, both observational and randomized studies have evaluated ivermectin as a treatment for and as prophylaxis against COVID-19 infection. What does that mean? It is used for a treatment if you get the disease and as a preventative method. A review by the Frontline COVID-19 Critical Care Alliance summarized findings from 27 studies on the effects of ivermectin for the prevention and treatment of COVID-19 infection, concluding that ivermectin, and I quote, demonstrates a strong signal of therapeutic efficacy, end quote, against COVID-19. And that ivermectin reduced deaths by 70%. Despite these findings, although them study it and find out these things, the National Institutes of Health in the United States recently stated that there are insufficient data to recommend either for or against the use of ivermectin for the treatment of COVID-19. And the World Health Organization recommends against its use outside of clinical trials. Won't ever hear anything like this? So 27 studies, peer-reviewed, mind you, have concluded that ivermectin was effective from back in the pandemic times. but the World Health Organization says it's not effective. And the Food and Drug Health Administration says it's not effective. And our Prime Minister jumped on the bandwagon and said, no ivermectin, even when the doctors here recommended it. In fact, maybe you would have recalled hearing in the news where medical practitioners were advised against recommending ivermectin. The doctors were advised by the politicians against recommending ivermectin. When since politicians have doctorate degree? Well, those who are medical doctors, that is. And because of that, we were robbed from getting actual treatment for COVID-19. And not only just treatment, but preventative measures against the virus. So it must seem like they do want the virus come here and kill off people. No, with the mismanagement of our money, diverting monies that were supposed to be used for other things into mismanaging the COVID-19 pandemic, our government has caused an even worse health issue, because now we have babies losing their lives. No, we just look at the journal entry talking about COVID-19 and ivermectin and its use in fighting COVID-19 and preventing COVID-19. No, I intentionally I had intended to play another video now to show how ivermectin is used with other available drugs to prevent one from getting COVID-19, and once you have gotten the COVID-19, how to treat it so that you are better. But I'm going to skip it now in the interest of time, because I think we have made the point already that the people don't try to trick with and tell us just vaccine alone was available, but that was not the case, and there were actual medications and treatments that we could have received. And those persons who were lost to death did not have to lose their lives. So Douglas, don't play the next video. That YouTube video, protecting yourself from COVID-19. So we're just going to skip that and move on to the next point, which is the UIC solution. Now, there you have it. Doctors have spoken. We have seen it in a medical journal. Our government lied to us from the start of the pandemic to benefit their foreign masters, and we continue to pay for it today. No, it does not take a genius to figure this out. Bill Gates is the second highest contributor to the World Health Organization. And this is the organization that all our hospitals get directions from and mandates and so forth. Who contributes the most money? Well, the United States. But next to the United States, an entire country, Bill Gates is the second highest contributor. And in fact, when US had stopped contributing for a while, Bill Gates was the highest contributor, the highest funder of the World Health Organization. You can Google it and check it out yourself. We're not going to go in depth here. But how does Bill Gates make his money? We know that Microsoft, he invented Microsoft, but next to that, we know that Bill Gates making money through vaccines. Now, does it take much deduction to see why the World Health Organization would have called pandemic worldwide and said that the way to get rid of this and manage this is through vaccines? Who stand to benefit from it? And why did our government buy into it instead of protecting the people of Jamaica? No, Deborah said there's a conflict of interest. No, we are coming with the UIC solution. No, we had sent to the government of Jamaica our 5-point pandemic plan. At at the height of the, well, not even at the height, at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, we sent the government our plan with the encouragement now that they would do what it takes to protect the Jamaican people. And they chose to ignore it. No, we wanted the lockdown to end so that our lives could go back to normal, the economy could get back up, but the UIC was ignored by the government. As usual, they ignore us, but they steal our plans from time to time. Now, we're going to be looking briefly at the UIC's 5-point pandemic plan that will be adopted once you help us to form the next government of Jamaica whenever a pandemic comes. If it comes, this is how the UIC proposes that we deal with pandemics. The UIC 5-point pandemic plan. Now, in brief, the first point is to close all borders to tourists, and then we compensate the tourist industry workers for lost wages. Because the fact is that it's coming from outside countries. Most of these diseases coming from outside countries. So we need to close the borders so that we deal with our people inside. Now, closing the borders includes also, it is with the view to reduce the incoming transmission of the virus. So we accept Jamaicans and permanent residents. And by doing that now, we reduce stress on our hospitals. This was the recommendation that was put forward to the government, by the way. Now, secondly, the second point is to remove all unnecessary restrictions, duties, and taxes on pharmaceutical imports and allow doctors full access to all treatment options, including those that have been proven to work, instead of just sticking to those that the WHO and the kingpin say you must use. We had suggested to the government through this plan, remove the restriction duties and allow the doctor them to get full access to the treatment options so the Jamaican people could be treated. Now, this gives Jamaicans access to all available options. It saves many lives as we are no longer dependent on one solution, and it keeps more of our people out of hospitals. Now, the third point in the pandemic plan is to remove unnecessary restrictions on freedom of speech, freedom of choice, freedom of movement and assembly. Now, I want to point out that I teach English online to Japanese, primarily Japanese, South Korean, and Taiwanese students. Neither Japan nor South Korea had a curfew, and they managed their outbreak of COVID-19 because they were given all the information that they needed and people were respected. Now, why can't our government respect us? Now, removing unnecessary restrictions on freedom of speech, choice, movement, and assembly allows for the speedy economic recovery to reverse the increased poverty levels. So we treat the people with the appropriate treatments, take the appropriate preventative measures instead of listening to people who want to make a buck, want to make a quick money, and we allow the economy to recover. Resume classroom activities and reverse the 2-year decline in education. Now, if you will do your own research, you will see how education went on unimpeded in South Korea and Japan, which were not locked down. No, if we had removed the unnecessary restrictions, we would have stopped the pedophilia, which rose at an alarming rate during the COVID-19 lockdowns. We would have stopped the increased stress, anxiety, mental health issues, domestic and gang violence. You see the offshoot of that now. Joblessness, business losses, divorces, and suicides. Now, point 4 is to convene a public emergency council to ensure an objective, transparent, and inclusive response going forward. Now, what are the points under that? Now, the Public Emergency Council, the PEC, will include representatives from all registered political parties, the public, private sector, and leading civil society groups. The PEC will be led by the Prime Minister and the Minister of Health and Wellness, but guided by the objective, transparent, and inclusive governance of the Council. Now, this will ensure that they're doing their jobs correctly. We know a lot of hiding and hush-hush was going on. Even when we requested some information, the Access to Information Act was not honored. We don't see the deals that were being made against the best interest of the Jamaican people. The PEC will be privy to any and all information surrounding the pandemic and any and all agreements reached between the government and any third parties, whether local or foreign. And the fifth point, now these are recommendations, as I said, that were given to the government. You can see why they were ignored. The fifth point, authorize or invoke the judiciaries, the auditor generals, and the contractor general's offices to audit, monitor, and validate all the actions of the PEC and the government to ensure they are in keeping with the agreed upon terms of reference, and that all reporting to the public are accurate, complete, and timely. Now, this was the pandemic plan that was proposed to the government, and which will form the basic response. Once the UIC forms government with your help, of course it will be improved upon, but you will see that this is with the view now to make Jamaicans well and to be transparent in our actions and our policies. Now, this is our solution. Well, one of our solutions in light of the pandemic that had gone, in light of the present health emergency, we propose a solution that works for the best of the Jamaican people. But in addition, we know the UIC puts forward healthy eating, exercise, taking care of the body so that the body is at its optimum level to fight sickness. But what else is the UIC solution? So these foolishness don't happen again. We cannot have it that in Jamaica, the public's funds are being mismanaged, and so crisis upon crisis are started. It is avoidable. It is not something that must happen. No, we have looked at the link between the dead babies, between the uncollected garbage, and the mismanagement of the COVID-19 situation, which would have been corrected had they followed our 5-point plan. Can you imagine if, for example, the second point that speak to making all available treatments for the public? Could you imagine if they had listened and the government had allowed doctors full access to treatment options? Then the patients who died could have had access to ivermectin and the other drugs and lived. And can you imagine if they had listened and formed the Public Emergency Council so that now all Jamaicans could know what is going on and have the best information? Because we the people, we don't have no deal with Bill Gates. We want to know that things are right now so we can move forward. So we know would be researching, just like Mr. Patterson researched and came up with the plans. Just like how other persons who marched out against the mandate researched and found out that what they were doing was wrong. The Public Emergency Council now, comprised of Jamaicans, would ensure that's accurate information. But instead, the ruling party and the opposition colluded to trick the Jamaican people because they were bought out by foreign interests. Because the leader of the backed the minister on these COVID-19 mandates. Now, we just present that solution in the form of the 5-point pandemic plan. And we had talked about eating right, exercising right. Our education plan will also be a part of our health, because when our students understand how the mind works, how the body works, how their emotions work, and understand human behavior and how to socialize, then we will have better mental health. We will understand how to take care of ourselves better, so that even the hospitals and will not be so overstaffed with issues stemming from depression or maybe unhealthy lifestyles and so forth. No, but ultimately, we present the overall solution. Now, the UIC has plans and policies that will effect change in Jamaica, but I believe that the most groundbreaking thing about the UIC is that the UIC is not just a political party. UIC is a new way of governance, and that is what we present. Now, because of the way we are governed, our politicians have been bought out by foreign powers. They have been bought out by our own private sector organization. But with the UIC's governance system, no buyout can go on, because even if the president is bought out, the government can't be. And we're going to be looking at that now. No, the UIC solution is a new governance structure for Jamaica. Now, we provide, and when I say UIC, I want us to all think we, because the UIC is a platform for we to be a part of. So the UIC provides assurance from corruption and from the further denial of the rights of the people, not only through the 5-point pandemic plan that was shown that could have prevented what is going on now, but as I said, a new system of governance, one in which you can buy out the people. Now, how is it that you can buy out Jamaica under UIC? Now, we say that we separate the election of the MPs from the election of the president of the country. So it's no longer prime minister, it's now president of the country. Instead of paying a prime minister and a governor general to do ceremonial things, they pay one person, reduce the public debt. But instead of where we elect people just because we want our party leader to win, we say elections through a non-partisan means. So you run for government office on your own terms, on your own name, and then you vote for MPs separate from the leader of the country, that is the president. Now, what this will do is ensure that MPs do their job, because nowadays what obtains is that you vote for an MP not because you think that MP is necessarily good, even if the MP is not worth anything, but you want your party to win so that the leader can become prime minister. Now we say separate all of that, vote for the MPs on their own merit based on what they present to the people, and vote for the president separately. Now, before anybody can run for MP or president, however, these persons must apply for the position. They must pass a governance test. If they cannot govern properly, then they don't make any sense. Now, anybody who wants to run for government office in UIC has to pass the governance test. Once you pass the governance test, then you go through an auditing, check out your background, and it's public so that the results are shown, everybody know. Once you pass that vetting, that auditing and vetting, then you will be able now to get persons to nominate you, and then you run for election. Election will be funded by the state. So no private funding of anybody to run for election, because this is how the corruption come in now. This is why the PSOJ have our government now by the teeth, because these powerful and rich persons now pay for your campaign, and now you have to do what them said. No, we don't want any of that. No, we're going to level the playing field. Rich or poor, once you can pass the test and pass the vetting and get nominated, the required nominators, then your election campaign is funded by the state. So now, people buying out the MP or the president cut at that level, right? No, or no sense must pass. No sense must pass. That way, when people criticize, we Jamaicans don't do. All right. So now, the MPs are elected. They run their constituencies, manage the constituency on behalf of the people. Now, the president is elected nationally. The president he or she must get the confidence of the people, not tied to any party, nor any group or any other person, but based on the background, the delivery, the plans for Jamaica, and so forth. Now, here's the niceness now. The president is not all powerful because we're going to cut the power of the leader of the country to do things on his or her own. Now, each county, for example, Cornwall, Middlesex, Surrey, the residents of each county will elect their vice presidents who will be responsible for a county. These vice presidents now, with the president and the treasurer and the general secretary, will form the executive of the government. Now, if the president wants a policy to be enacted now, the president will have to get the buy-in from each individual vice president, which, mind you, has no political party, has no link to the president. So there is no chance now of cronyism. So if him want or she want, for example, now to take away the rights of the Jamaican people by saying stay home and force this in your blood now, then the independent VPs who were elected by the people in the county to represent them have to agree to it. Then it don't stop there. After you get the buy-in from the 3 county vice presidents, then the president must get the buy-in from the parish senators. Now, here's the difference between senators in the UIC system and the current senators. Now, what happens is that the prime minister, them say nominate, but it's really a choose any 13 people he want, and the governor general assigns it into being. The leader of the opposition choose any 8 persons. They don't have to be qualified, just any 13 where the prime minister feel like, and any 8 where the leader of the opposition feel like. And so you have 21 senators. We're done with that. Under UIC system, the parish senators will be voted by the residents of the parish. They will be representatives of the people and not representatives or rubber stamps of the party leader. Now, these are independent persons who do have no party they did not come into election through a party, but individually. So the president, remember, has to get the buy-in from the VPs, and then no, he must get the buy-in from the majority of the parish senators before he or she can move for a policy. So we ensure that a policy is vetted and that no president of UIC can be what we call a dictator. So we see right now how it's set up is that under UIC government, WHO and any other foreign country could not have bought out the government. Now, bear in mind that the entire Congress, consisting of the senators and the MPs and so forth, can at any time meet and reverse the decisions of the president, although these decisions were consulted on. So you see now the kind of checks and balances that the UIC comes in with, so that no person or group of persons can mismanage the country's affairs. Now, another thing that we want to make clear is that no government senator nor MP can become a minister under UIC. No, you're not going to touch the people their money and do what you want. No, there must be subject matter experts. So, for example, those who have expertise in teaching, Ministry of Education. Those who have expertise in defense and security, Ministry of Security. Those who have experience in medicine, Ministry of Health. We don't want, and we will not tolerate any person, any MP or senator being appointed as a minister with no experience, no knowledge or whatsoever, no qualification in the ministry. No, these persons, before they can be appointed in the ministry, they are nominated by the president and the executive, who presents them to the Senate, who will vet them publicly, so we know what kind of person we're dealing with. Now, those ones who pass the vetting now are elected by the MPs on behalf of the people, voted in or out, and those who pass that process, now these are the ones who go into the ministries to manage the ministries. And now, if them mismanage our thief not now, we have the MPs on them back because there's no party linkage now to ensure that they do what they're supposed to do. In the present system, the same legislators, the same MPs are the ones who are ministers managing our affairs. So, and because the majority party is the one that run things, they can just meet amongst themselves and hide it from the parliament. You know, the opposition is a lesser, so all the opposition will hold them accountable because they don't know what's going on. They can hide it up. But no friend and no Kumbolo is there right now. The ministers are employees of the state and are being managed by people who have no connection like that to them. So we cut down there on the corruption, and so no minister can touch the money, no senator can touch the money. So it's a system of checks and balances, and before you can come in, there's checks and balances already, because you must pass tests, you must pass the vetting, right? And you must pass the interview. I forgot that part. So you pass the test, you do an interview. If you pass the interview, then the vetting, then you must get nominated, and then the state pay for you. And so you cut out corruption. No, so this is our solution, our method of governance. Jamaica cannot continue to be bought out at the expense of our rights. We cannot be bought out, and the people at the top, they are the ones benefiting. And when they're ready, they just fly out and send them children overseas, buy assets overseas, and we stay here and suffer. It can't continue like that. We cannot allow Jamaica to continue to be a country that can be bought out and played with as if we are a game. So we need to change the governance system, and this is our solution. So yes, we have plans for education that will ensure that crime is sorted out, our health is sorted out, our housing is sorted out. We have plans like the 5-point plan to ensure now that the slackness that went on during the COVID-19 mismanagement of our funds, which now cause another problem, won't happen again. But beyond all those plans is our governance structure that ensure that Jamaica will forever be a country in which we know our government is held accountable and our government can never be bought out. All right, so we're going to go through some of these comments before we close for the night. We know, but the UIC will propel Jamaica to greater heights. Yes, Wade. In fact, we are the UIC. We will propel Jamaica to higher heights. All of us here on this live who are committed to a better Jamaica, it is we using this platform who will improve Jamaica. All right, poor work currently is proof that they are not qualified. They are not qualified. The results speak for themselves. Kick Rock. It's evident when people are bought out. Kick Rocks again. That's true. Javon Wilson makes a very important point. We need some money to move forward with UIC. All right, I'm glad you raised this point. All right, so everyone, maybe I'm speaking to the saved here, but we need to get this out and into the knowledge of the Jamaican people. Cool. This is our movement. This movement is for you, for all of it. No, this is not the political parties that are owned by the powers that be. This is our thing where we are start. No big corporation is going to give us any money because they do not want to see these plans come to light. If these plans come to light, then it's the end of their dominance over us. So, them don't want it to work. Them block we from the media. People don't hear about the UIC, but them hear about any foolishness going on. Why? Because the media doesn't want to cover us. They know about us. We send press releases out like foolishness and no reply. The media is not carrying us. Even social media algorithms are behaving away, because even when you subscribe, sometimes you may not receive notifications. So guess what? We have to do the work, because this is our movement. And the only way the movement will work is if we invest in it, whether our time or our money. So the thing works. This is for us, the first movement, the first platform where we Jamaicans make things happen. Now, if nothing go on in the UIC, it's because we Jamaicans never make nothing go on. When we think of the UIC as something external to us, the UIC nah, because we nah. Simple as that. No, for us to make money, Jamaicans must invest the money in the UIC. Let me not even say invest. For us to make money, Jamaican people must own the UIC and contribute to the UIC. Now, it is what, $250 a week, or 1,000 Jamaican dollars a month. Now, can we count on you? Can we count on you to help us, to help we reach where we need to be in the seat of government, so that we can make these changes on behalf of the Jamaican people? No, and when I say we, I don't necessarily mean me, because I'm a candidate, but any candidate who takes my constituency or division, as long as UIC, I don't care. It's UIC we're pushing, not a person. So we're not pushing a person, we're pushing the UIC structure. No, will you help us reach there? Will you help us to build this movement for Jamaicans from all walks of life? Will you get involved to liberate our country and our loved ones? Well, we need you to share this information, to share the live, so that people are aware. Because guess what? The media not do it, so who must do it? If we are waiting on the media that is controlled by the colonizers and the people who want to exploit us to share the information for us, we don't. If we need this to go out, we must share it out. So can we count on you to share this to every single person in your contact, so that even if they might watch it or not, you can encourage them to watch it, but they would have been aware that there is the UIC. Can we count on you to donate as much as you're able to, $250 a week or $1,000 per month? Can we count on you to help us find 1,000 donors who will donate monthly 25 US from the diaspora? Well, this is our movement. And I can count on me, but can I count on you? Can you count on you? Can your son count on you? Your daughter, your mother, your father, can they count on you? Can you count on them to do this for we? Well, I leave that with you until we meet again. This is our movement. This is our opportunity. This is our platform. Let us share it. Let us volunteer. Let us contribute, donate to it, so that we can bring out the best in all of us. We can bring out the best in Jamaica and make this truly one Jamaica. No more division, JLP versus PNP. One Jamaica. No more haves and have not, because we ensure that everybody living a comfortable life, whether them rich or them not so rich. We have a good quality of life in Jamaica. So no more division, one Jamaica, but depend on every single one of we who watching this. What will you do? What can we depend on you to do? Can you influence others to help us realize that this is our chance, and to stop thinking about this partisan politics foolishness, this division? This is how we were robbed from Africa in the first place. Black people stand up against each other and tribe. We need to be one Jamaica, and we need to be invested in it. We must be personally invested. I am a part of the UIC exec as general secretary, but I am not separate and apart from you, the Jamaican people. All are we in this, and I cannot do it alone. Mr. Patterson, our founder, our president, brilliant man, cannot do it alone, as brilliant as he is. We must own this. We must be a part of it. or it never go nowhere. Do not let my Friday evenings be in vain. I don't like to talk and run my mouth for nothing. So we present this information and we hope that it means something to you and that we have learned and are motivated to make Jamaica a better place. And we can do it if all of us here motivated to share this information, to donate to it, and to own this as our thing. Not FUNO thing, but FIWI thing. People, have yourself a wonderful night. See you again next time. One Jamaica, stronger together.